Hey, welcome back to Money Talks. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about are you ready to invest and the things you can do to get yourself going. But first, if this is your first time actually joining us on this channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you like this content, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And also, if you have a moment, go ahead and leave me a comment, and I do my best to respond to all comments. So, one of the things that's been great about this opportunity with the coronavirus and just in general is put more focus on the area of investing. A lot of people are looking at, hey, I want to get invested. I know this is a good time. I want to get started investing. But with anything that has to do with investment, whether you're dealing with real estate, whether you're dealing with business, whether you're dealing with the stock market, every single piece of those areas always has a risk. And the important thing is that you need to understand before you go jumping and diving into the pool, really understand what to get yourself into and what steps you can actually take. So today I'm going to walk through a few steps you can actually take so that you will be not only a good beginner investor, but also understand what you're getting yourself into. So number one, previously in other videos, and if you've ever talked to me or if you're in that Facebook group, Money Talks, you know I'm big about having that emergency fund. So you do actually need the emergency fund. The reason for that is for this time right now, when your investments are going down or when the stock market is kind of hazy, where it's up one day, down one day, and that's all things we've experienced over the last week, right? That's why it's important for you to have the emergency fund. Investments work the best when you don't actually need the money and you don't have to survive off that money. So when you're putting money into a stock or things of that nature, you want to look at it as, hey, I don't need this money for anything for the next 5 years. If that's the case, yes, now is a good time for you to invest. That's where that emergency fund really takes place. But it also answers the question of, do you actually have to pay off all your debt to actually start investing? The simple answer is no. But as you start investing, as you start to see how your money can actually work and how it can potentially grow, well, then it starts to make you look around of how can I get more money to invest? That's where the first thing on the chopping block is the debt. Now, I will say, if you can at least clear up the credit card debt, clear up the car loan debt, that at least puts you in an optimal place. Why? Because in a mortgage place, most people with the emergency fund, you've already kind of built in your household expenses. And if you lose your job, even if you have student loans, well, you can pause those. So at least if you can get rid of that car note and credit card, that will kind of put you in a more balanced approach to investing. But you can still invest with debt. It's just your emergency fund needs to compensate for that. And obviously, whether it's 6 months, whether it's 8 months or a year, however that may be, whatever you feel comfortable with, really start to make sure you add in those accounts of, hey, I got credit card debt payment I have to make, I got a car payment I have to make. But the emergency fund does just that. It helps you during this treacherous times, just like this, to stay away from your investment because your investments will now be working a little bit harder. And if you pull it out, well, that's where you lose your money. Number two, to actually start investing, it causes you to have a shift. Now, if by now you've actually been trying to get out of debt or trying to save money for the emergency fund, you've already had to have a shift. But this is another shift in mindset that you have to actually do. When you look at becoming an investor, investors look to maximize all of their resources. So it's not just their money, it's their time, it's their space, it's their relationships. They want to maximize it all. But especially with their money, they want to maximize it in the best way possible, but also the most efficient way possible. And again, that points you to when you look at what you're paying on debt, it doesn't really measure up efficiently. So it will cause you to question those things, but then it also makes you shift in mindset. Oh, okay, maybe the change in mindset isn't debt. Maybe the change in mindset is, hey, I'm making $50,000 a year and I could be making $75,000 a year. Or I could potentially work from home and actually save some expenses. Or I could find another alternate route that actually, or another way to utilize my car or other services or products you can do or provide that brings you more income. But the point is, from an investor mindset, you actually look at things from the rearview mirror of how can I maximize this? How can I maximize every dollar that's coming in? How can I maximize the time that I'm putting in at my job? Am I getting the raise that I want? And am I making the compensation that I want? How can I maximize my time? Am I actually doing the things that I want? Because to be honest, when people start to look at investing, the goal truly is some sort of financial independence. You want a good return, and you want that return to put you in a position to where you have unlimited access and unlimited options of freedom that you can do whatever you would like to do with your time when you want to do it. Number 3, you have to really start to look at, okay, what do I need to learn? How can I get confidence? You'll need confidence as you become an investor. Well, one way to get confidence is you have to understand what you're investing in. You have to understand that when you start to think about investing in the stock market, stocks make you money, bonds smooth out the ride. So for you to understand, hey, when I'm putting my money into stocks, that means I'm really trying to make more money. And when I'm buying a mutual fund, or when I'm buying an index fund, or if I'm buying just a regular single stock, what risk is involved in that? So a good example is to look at it like this. You'll hear terms like stocks or equities, bonds, which bonds is just simply when you lend money for a fixed amount to the government. So that means instead of you taking out like a personal loan from your credit union, you're actually the one giving that money and charging the percentage rate. So a good example is the bonds might have a term of 5% over 18 months, something of that nature. That means you're going to get paid 5% for them borrowing and using your money over that time. Bonds smooth out your ride of your investing process. Now, personally speaking, I'm very, very aggressive by nature for my investment profile. So I haven't started to use bonds. But bonds come into play when you start to age, and the larger and the older you get, and the closer you get to retirement, that's where you start to add more bonds to your portfolio. It's really important that you understand what's going to make you money and what's not going to make you money. It's still going to make you money, but bonds is not going to make you as much money as stocks, which brings me to the point of your stocks. Stocks is an investment in the company where you own a particular share. So you can do that by, again, just owning different shares of different companies, or you can look at, hey, I own a mutual fund. So you own a lot of different companies, 100, 200, 3 just comprised in it. And a mutual fund's goal is to actually beat the stock market. An index fund is a little bit different. It's built like a mutual fund, but its goal is just to keep pace with the stock market. So you really want to understand what each one of these things mean and how does it play into your wealth. Because ultimately, the more you understand how each of these terms mean and how you can build your strategy, then it makes a little bit more sense and you get more confidence to be able to work through a time such as this. You won't be so concerned because you know, oh, okay, my stocks are down. I don't necessarily need the money. I'm still going to ride it out. So next, after you learn those components, then you have to think about what accounts do I need? So first thing you always want to secure when you think about investing is you first secure your 401k, your retirement. If you have a job that offers you a 401k, that's where you want to be trying to pour in upwards of 20 to 25% of your income into your 401k. You don't always have full selection, but you do get options on what you get to select for that 401k. So again, I'm very, very aggressive. So I'm looking at my approach based off my age. Hey, I want the most aggressive thing in there, and I'm going to put 20, 25%. So that's first where you want to put your money. Next, a regular 401k is what we call a traditional 401k. It means the money comes out before you get taxes. Now, there is more and more options for more companies are offering what you call a Roth 401k. And what that means is that company will allow you to put in your money post-tax, but you still get the limits of the traditional 401k. Well, why is this different? Well, Roth has limits. A Roth IRA has limits. Not everyone can put money into a Roth IRA. So the Roth 401k option, number one, anyone can put into it. Number two, you can still put in $19,500 to max it out. And number three, which is the best and probably the biggest benefit of it all, it grows tax-free. See, your traditional 401k, if you had $1 million in a traditional 401k and you had $1 million in a Roth 401k, when you went to pull money out the Roth, you wouldn't pay taxes on it in retirement. But when you went to pull money out the traditional, you would have to pay taxes on it. So it's really important that you understand the distinction between Roth and traditional. Again, it's really very, very important that you understand certain components of investing, because if you don't, you can open yourself up to a lot of tax liability. And you don't have to do that. You can just follow simple plans. So by using the Roth 401k, you really want to maximize. Well, if you have money after that, what do you actually do? Well, there are some people that with Fidelity, and I use that for my index funds, and I deposit in it consistently. Now, the thing about brokerage accounts is they are subject to what's called a capital gains tax. And you will want to seek help and counsel from your tax professional. But also, if you can't figure it out, your financial advisor may be actually able to help you as well. But the biggest thing is that you understand that brokerage account is for after-tax money. Roth is for after-tax money. Traditional is for pre-tax money. So you'll see a lot of traditional plans with your 401ks and things of that nature. Why am I mentioning this? Well, it's very important that you understand what options you have, because most HR benefits discussions don't necessarily center around the specific. So if you know, then you can start to ask questions about what's going to be the best benefit. And the thing about it is, with a Roth 401k, while your money is going in post-tax, your employer match, if you have one, does go into traditional. So in essence, you have two different buckets. But again, that can be saved for a later time, and I'll dive deeper in another video about that. But lastly, what's my approach? Well, my approach is simply this. I invest based off my age, and I came up with this through number one, reading, number two, experience, and number three, after talking with many people who are millionaires and who have been successful with money, I figured out that if I simply approach my investing much like I would a doctor's visit, that would probably steer me on the most comfortable track. And what I mean by that is, when you go to a doctor and you have to get some sort of medicine, the doctor usually gives you money based off your height, weight, age, all those different factors. So the same thing is with me. When I'm investing based off my age. What is the optimal way for me to maximize my money? Number two, I understand that I don't necessarily need this money. I do have my emergency fund out of debt. I don't have to worry about that. So how can I really maximize this money? Then number three, my strategy. I use particularly index fund. And the reason for that is I've had mutual funds, and I do have a small portion of single stock, but my main focus and concern for my funds is index funds. And the reason for that is, as I read and research and understand that 96% of the time, index funds outperform other mutual funds. And that's very, very important, because in mutual funds, you're wrapped up in a lot of fees. Number two, they're trying to outpace the stock market, which, again, 96% of the time, that doesn't happen. And then number three, mutual funds can take and change their investments throughout the year. And by doing that, it can cause me a tax liability. Index funds, while they're dropping or while they're evolving with new businesses in the market or in this total stock market fund, they actually do the same approach, but they just automatically drop off and get replaced. And that doesn't cause me any type of tax liability. Also, they don't, all the dividends that I get are actually reinvested. So that's my particular approach. I use Fidelity, but I do know a lot of people, and I have colleagues that use Vanguard. And the reason for that I found is Jack Bogle is the one who first came out and developed the index fund. And so that has been Vanguard's baby. That's the typical reason why, hey, this is the original of the index fund. So people who need index fund, they typically go to Vanguard. I hope this video is helpful for you to understand that, number one, you can invest. Also, two, there are steps that you need to take. But number three, really, once you start to be aware, and if you follow these actual steps, it will put you in a great way to build wealth. Remember, you're trying to build wealth for the long term. You're trying to maximize your research for the long term. And me, I'm just trying to help you out. So until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.